I'm Doug Hadfield and you're watching Resource Intelligence TV. Our interview with an expert today is with John Kaiser, who is well known in the resource investment world for his Kaiser Bottomfish Online. John's a 25-year veteran of the resource investment sector and certainly in his day has brought to the fore a number of prospective resource plays that have gone on to become mines. John, thanks a lot for being with us today.
Thank you for having me here.
Today we're going to focus resource intelligence on the rare earth sector because it's obviously a sector that's on fire, and certainly a handful of companies in this sector have done exceedingly well this year, doing doubles, triples, and so on. One of our guests on the show today is Quest Uranium, and that company since about May 1st this year has jumped fivefold. So I think it behooves us to look a little more closely at some of these companies. What a lot of investors want to know, John, I think, is this for real? Is this an anomaly, or is this something like, say, uranium or molybdenum that jumped like a tsunami and then came down just as fast?
There's two parts of that question, and the answer is yes to both. The first part is this hype that we've heard about rare earth suddenly becoming a very important topic for real? Yes, it is. Demand for rare earths has been growing very strongly during the past decade. It's about 125,000 tons a year right now. It's expected to hit 180,000 tons by 2014-15. And that doesn't even take into consideration the possibility that many of these renewable energy technologies like hybrids and electric cars and wind turbines and all that will actually get scaled to really, really massive implementation. If that starts to happen, we're looking at tremendous growth beyond 2015. And therein lies the problem, because China is the dominant supplier right now, and they've even put the world on notice saying, we know we have very big long-term plans, and we're not sure that we will be able to accommodate what you want for your export needs of this stuff. Now, for the juniors, what's happened is an awakening. And there was a handful of Australian companies and a few others which were doing reasonably well until 2008 when the market crashed. In the rare earth index that I had, they went from 1,000 in 2003 to about 6,000 in 2008, crashed all the way back to about 1,000, and now it's standing at 12,000, which is why people have this perception there is a bubble. But the complete market cap of all 13 companies in this index is only $2 billion right now. And if you do a resource estimate of, or you add up the value of the in-the-ground rare earths in the resource estimates published for half of these companies, that's $50 billion worth of rare earths in the ground. And by the time the others finish producing resource estimates for the deposits where you can tell what the tonnage footprint is, we're dealing with $100 billion worth of metals in the ground. So I think we have just begun in terms of the valuation upside that is potential for these companies.
Let's talk a bit about the projects themselves. For starters, what's the lead time in these? For example, some gold projects you can make a discovery and get to feasibility within a couple of years, whereas uranium projects, for example, can take up to 10 years to permit. How does rare earths fare there?
Rare earths are similar to base metal projects in that you make a discovery and it'll take you 2 years to produce a mineable reserve. But the real hang-up is the metallurgical studies, because these are very complex deposits with many mineralogies in there. You have to figure out a way of ripping these elements out of their enclosures, their rock enclosures. And because you're looking at 15 of them in various combinations, that's a lot of work that needs to be done. So some companies have been stuck for more than a decade at the metallurgical stage. So that becomes the big question, is how long does it take you to come up with a metallurgical process where the cost is less than what the value of these rare earths are? And that typically would take 1 to 2 years. They usually start right away when they make a discovery.
In the metallurgy?
Yes, they start taking samples and trying to figure out how they all hang together and so on. So it can run parallel with the resource delineation process, but you can still spend from discovery 2 to 3 years before you have a pre-feasibility study.
How much of a factor is Chinese protectionism in this sector right now?